Well, it took a little longer than we expected, but we finally have a trailer for Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. And all I just want to say is, you're welcome, because I talked about it in my Ant-Man book review video, and I said, wow, it's crazy that Marvel could put out this book, and DC can't even put out a trailer for a movie that comes out in December. And then immediately, they put out the teaser for the trailer. So I don't want to say it's completely because of that, but I don't think it hurt. Anyway, the trailer's out. We know a lot of new stuff about this movie. We're going to go over it. I'm not going to try to spoil bits of the movie. I will talk about like kind of comics. This might be influenced by certain storylines they maybe hit. Really just one plot point that might come up. But besides that, I'm going to be pretty general. And most of the stuff is new. Some of it we'd seen concept art for. We saw like that one clip of him in his blue suit going to what I assume is Orm's jail. And that's really it. Like it's kind of surprising how little information, like footage we had from this. There have been lots of rumors about reshoots and parts of it not being good. But like I've said, and I talked about this a lot, one of those sets of rumors came from someone who said this movie's really bad. It stinks. It's silly and bright and incoherent. And we were all like, yeah, I know. That's what these movies are. Like we liked the first one for that reason. So like, I'm not completely bought in on whatever that person said, but either way, there were a lot of reasons why it seemed like this was not going to come out, or why they weren't going to promote it that much, because maybe they didn't have a lot of faith in it. And, you know, they've started promoting it, so they at least have some faith in it. And like the first one of these made $1 billion, so even if they don't make, you know, $1 billion again, you do figure just based on the strength of the original, this will do pretty well, especially in a summer of flops with Flash flopping for them and Blue Beetle, you know, flopping, although like relatively, because that was never envisioned as a theatrical release, or at least it wasn't until, you know, they kind of retooled it as that. So, you know, it's like that movie was never going to make money because it was originally a Max original movie. So now it's like, well, it didn't make as much money as they had wanted. It's not like a humongous hit, but also it probably turned a profit and they didn't advertise it very much. So it's like, I guess it was better than not. I don't know. But Aquaman was like, out of the 4 movies that were coming out this year, the one that I think, looking at it, had all the pieces together. Like was successful, had most of the cast returning, most of the creatives were back, and it just was fun. Like I enjoyed the first Aquaman. I think it was colorful, it was kind of silly. It had that, you know, Pitbull song, and it had that energy, which felt kind of sincere, and in a way that like the original Fast and Furious movies are, and the new ones kind of aren't, where it was like taking itself pretty seriously, besides, you know, him saying like woohoo when he like jumps out of a plane. But even that, like they didn't play it as much of a joke as just like, this is what this guy is like in this world. And that feels very different from a movie like that, where this is like what this guy is like, but all the other characters roll their eyes all the time. They did a little bit of that though. That's why, like, I don't think Aquaman 1 was perfect. I think it was pretty entertaining. Most people seem to like it. So what do we get from this trailer? It's a lot of visuals, a lot of like exciting, you know, underwater battles. It's still very colorful. It's still got that fluorescent lighting, and I like the look of these a lot. I think it looks really sharp. I watched it on YouTube in a very compressed, like, man, the algorithm just does not do really justice when it comes to things like this. So when I see it in a theater, I'll probably have a better sense for like how this looks. But, you know, overall it looks good. It doesn't look like a cheap movie or like a movie that they just like kind of, you know, threw together on the last day. Like it looks like something they've been working on, which gives me faith that it's good. The narrative seems to be, he says this in the trailer, it's been 4 years since I started being Aquaman. I used to be unemployed, and now my job is Aquaman, and I'm catching derailing, you know, boat monorail things and doing king stuff, and I have a baby now, which we'll get to, and that's just my life. And then the trailer pretty much immediately goes to like, and Black Manta is back. And I will say, this is probably the thing I'm most interested in this trailer, is just the fact that this movie is coming out. Like, this is a sequel to a popular superhero movie. They do this all the time. They make superhero movies, and then they make another one. Iron Man 2, Captain America 2, Thor 2, Spider-Man 2, you know, they don't really get a lot of 2s in the DC ones. Shazam 2, Wonder Woman 2. It's like they make these a lot. And usually the way these work is same cast of characters. Sometimes the villain returns, sometimes they don't for whatever reason. Maybe they're dead, maybe they like got trapped in a time vortex or whatever. Or maybe the time in the movie has skipped forward so much that they're not really in play anymore. But for the most part, it is a new villain. A new guy shows up and he's like, I hate you for this reason and I'm new. And at the same time, a new ally shows up, right? The Falcon becomes a supporting character in those movies, or a character that used to be a supporting character moves up to being a main hero, right? You have a War Machine, or even the Shazam family, I would say, graduating to like main Shazam family. Like that becomes a, normal part of this universe. But they are introducing new characters, and this Aquaman trailer, as far as we've seen, besides the baby, has no new characters in it. I think that is wild. Now I went back and looked at like Aquaman characters, Aquaman comics, because obviously you got Aqualad. You got both Aqualads, and I don't think there's space for them right now. I think you could have thrown one of them in, but honestly, what are you getting out of it? And it's interesting because the first Aquaman movie had 3 Aquaman villains. It had Orm the Ocean Master, Black Manta, and King Nereus, Mera's father. Those are all in the comics traditionally villains. And I'd say at least Orm the Ocean Master and Black Manta are his 2 biggest villains. Like those 2 for sure. I'd say Nereus, I don't know, he's in the list somewhere. But there aren't as many Aquaman villains as you would expect. Even like guys like King Shark. Yeah, he's an Aquaman villain sometimes because he's like underwater, but he started as a Superboy villain. Like there's a character called the Fisherman who, if I had to pitch an Aquaman 2, and I don't think I'm going to, because the new one's going to come out before I get to make the video, I would imagine he would be the villain just because he is maybe this 3rd most interesting Aquaman villain. He's like a fisherman themed villain who also happens to kind of be controlled by a monster, and I don't want to get into it. He's fun. I like the Fisherman. And on the other side, there aren't that many named Aquaman friends. You've got Volko, obviously, and Mera that were in the first movie. Also, there's a villain that is, I think, Mera's like evil twin or something. So I guess she could have shown up. All that being said, like I don't see really an in route for any of them. I don't see any reason to add Aqualad into this because he's not like the same. Like this isn't like that kid that Aquaman has is gonna grow up to be like they could do that, but that's not usually how he works in the comics. So it's like that's not, I don't think, where they're going with this. It does seem like the villain is Black Manta from the first one, and all the allies are the allies plus Orm from the first one, who is now a good guy, or whatever. I liked that cast though, so I'm not really that disappointed. Like it felt like Yahya Abdul-Mateen II was not really utilized well in the first one. Okay, it's not fair. It's not that he wasn't utilized well. It's just he wasn't as big of a performance as he could have been. Like you were like, you watch that and you're like, this guy could be the main villain though. And now he is. So it's like, that's good. And then on the other side, Patrick Wilson was great. Like I think that character was very fun. He had a lot of good energy, fantastic costume, which I have the figure for here, but like he really worked. So the fact that most of what we're doing is bringing back some of these other characters and maybe recontextualizing them, taking Black Manta and elevating him to main villain, and then taking Orm and elevating him to like sidekick friend, that kind of works. There's part of me that like, this world feels a little like small, and it doesn't, because it's big, and it really do, like I like the design of this a lot, like in terms of just that it doesn't, it doesn't look like a boardroom and then, a couple of other smaller sets. It feels like these big, oceans filled with lots of weird sea cars and different races of fish people and stuff. Like I think that's all good. I guess just like I kind of wish we had another kingdom show up and be like, hey, I'm from the crab people, even though we already got them last movie. So like, yeah, we had them, we had the fish guys who, they got killed, and then they have the little baby in charge, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Anyway, that's my biggest takeaway from this trailer is it is characters we've seen before. That being said, Black Manta, main villain, cool. I think he looks great. I like Yahya a lot in this role, and I think he is just in general like a solid player for any of these teams. Like I like him on the Watchmen movie, I like him in this, and I'm excited for him to show up in the Marvel stuff as Wonder Man. Now, that being said, I do think in these movies, pardon the pun, his character's a little shallow. Like when you get down to this second movie, he's kind of like this Joker figure almost, of like, I'm gonna destroy everything you love, Aquaman. And with Joker, it's like he doesn't have a backstory. He's just so, he's a chaos agent. He can't even imagine what he's gonna do. With other villains that have done this, it's like Winter Soldier. It's like, oh, it's very personal because he was his friend, and also now we have Hydra coming back. So it's like these are, kind of the shadows of Steve's past. With this, it's like, this is Black Manta. He's a guy who you fought twice before, and his dad died, mostly his own fault. But Aquaman was around for that. And now he's like sworn revenge and decided to kill Aquaman. And I do think like it seems like what he's going to be doing is very effective, but I wonder if in my head I'm going to have to like imagine a more dramatic version of his dad's death and stuff. But and I guess like this character just sucks. Like he's a bad guy. He's not a good guy. There's no like sympathy to him. The pirate who was killing people, and then his dad died. Now he wants to kill Aquaman. I do think the suit looks fantastic, like way better than it did in the first movie. I liked it in the first movie, but like man, the new, like it's super sleek. It's got that metal collar that I think does a lot to kind of break up some of the body, and yeah, it looks like they're going full into like the comic bookiness of it, which I love. I will say I'm almost kind of bummed that we're not gonna get this Aquaman and this Orm and this Black Manta in the future. Like it seems like the way this is all working, they will be written out, and it's almost like maybe we don't do Black Manta in this and we do him in the next ones, because like he could be a really fun recurring figure, and we're gonna have to recast him or probably just not do him. If he's really good in this, people won't want to see him again, like a lesser version of Black Manta. So I don't know. I mean, you could recast Yaya and just like not like even recast him, but just say this is the Black Manta of this universe. He's pretty much the same as the other one, but like he doesn't have exactly the same history. Just because, yeah, it looks great. It seems like it's a good performance. It seems like he's got like a lot of evil plans to kill everybody and stuff. The humor in this is fine. You know, like the build bridges thing that feels right in line with like the redhead's right jumps out of a plane moment from Aquaman 1. Yeah, like I don't know. This looks fine. I think there's the two things that I think are a little strange, or the two kind of questions I have. One, not like where's Mera, but like I'm surprised by how little she's in here. Now I wonder, is she not in the movie very much so they don't have a lot of footage of her, or is she just not in the trailer very much because they know people cause a big stink and stuff like that? Like I don't know. Like Warner Brothers is in a really weird spot, because all I'll say about this is it definitely feels like, from where I'm sitting, the UK court had a very clear verdict that Johnny Depp did abuse to her. 13 out of 15 counts or something like that. And like that seems pretty serious. I know the American court was different, but also that whole trial, I don't know if you weren't paying attention to that, was a disaster. Like the social media stuff, I think we'll look back on that. I think a lot of people look back on that now and go like that was a mess, but I do think that'll be something that like in 10 years, I don't know, it's like with Britney Spears now, we'll be looking back and like, oh my God, what was happening? Like go look at that SNL sketch and go like, that was such a mistake. Not to say that like she didn't do anything either, but also, you know, at what point does who's responsible and who is more culpable and all of that. I understand people to have strong feelings about it for reasons and how it relates to their relationships, and I don't want to say that I think that like those people are wrong. All I'm saying, I guess, in terms of the Aquamaniness of this all, is it's interesting that Warner Brothers, she's in the trailer, she exists in the world, but she doesn't seem to be focused on. And I wonder if that is a movie thing or a trailer thing, because they just don't want to have to deal with the comments and stuff like that that would come from her having a large role in this trailer. Like, and I could see a version of this movie where she dies immediately, and that is like the big, oh my God, Black Manta's doing bad stuff, like he's really serious. And then that feels like the most middle of the road way for Warner Brothers to deal with this. They don't have to really pick a side. They don't need to give her a role similar to her role in Aquaman 1, where she's like a main character that shares almost equal screen time with Jason Momoa. And they don't have to completely not put her in the movie, kind of like they did with, say, Johnny Depp in the Fantastic Beasts movie, where they like recasted him. They don't have to recast her and put, I don't know, who people like for her, Game of Thrones, like her. They don't have to put her in there and pretend nothing happened. Like, I feel like that is the middle ground. The middle option is have her be in the movie and then kill her. I feel like that's probably what they'll do, just because they're a movie studio and they don't want to pick sides as much as possible. Yeah, it's a weird situation. The whole thing's weird. It's very complicated, and it sucks. The whole thing sucks. We do get a couple of shots of her doing fights in the trailer, and maybe they'll just be like, the baby is in danger, and Aquaman's like, you gotta hide our son. Don't tell me where you're going. Just disappear. And then we never see, her or the baby again until the very end of the movie. I don't know. But I'm very curious about that. The other thing, it's interesting, is just like, this is the last one. Like, this is the last DCEU movie. And it's weird. Like, I didn't think going into this that I would have that feeling of like, this doesn't really matter though, because it's a movie, and like most movies aren't connected to other movies, and you still watch them and enjoy them, and I'm sure I still will. Honestly, it's almost like, man, if this is good, it's going to be a bummer, because it does seem like Jason Momoa is getting another role in these, and all the rest of this stuff then won't count, and I'm going to miss, this Black Manta looks really cool, and this Ocean Master, who I also think was pretty well characterized and like very interesting in these movies. The only other thing, spoilers for the comics and something that might bleed over into the movies, although I think it's very unclear. In the comics, Black Manta's killed Aquaman's son. So they can kind of do whatever they want here. They can telegraph that in the trailer and have like, Black Manta be like, I'm going to kill your son, Aquaman. And then switch it, kill Mera or kill his dad, kill his mom or something like that. As this, like, we know what we're expecting, but also then they can play with that expectation, or they can just kill the kid, or they can do neither of those things. They can kill nobody. But I think we're going to see a couple of deaths. And like, I don't know. I don't know if this series is going to be the first one where the bad guy kills the superhero's kid. That'd be pretty dark. And like, I guess it's tough because these movies do have this kind of dual identity of like the silly Pitbull movie mixed with this super dark tone that they're trying to bring into this. And I wonder if there will be like a clash where Aquaman will be like laughing with Orm and you'll be like, Black Manta just kidnapped your son, dude. Like, you should be really upset about that, or whatever he's gonna do. I don't know this for a fact, but I imagine if they're gonna do something kind of like that, Aquaman's son will be in danger, and they'll do that thing from the, I want to say, Peter David comics that they did on the animated series, where Aquaman will have to like cut his hand off to save the kid and get either the harpoon or the water hand. Either way, I think like that feels like the thing that we're most likely to get. But also, like, at the end of this movie, kill Aquaman. Who cares? We're not going to get another one. Like, have him sacrifice himself to, destroy the bad guy. Like, you can get away with some really dramatic stuff if you know that we're never making another Aquaman movie. But, I also think they don't want to fully close that door. And I don't know if this makes $1 billion. Maybe they go, you know what, actually, this was the first movie in the new DCU. And also the first movie in the new DCU, huge hit. We're off to a great start. And now I guess, this character's going to be just hanging around in the background of some of these other movies. And Lobo, it looks a little different, but similar, and we're never going to talk about it, which I think they could do. Like, I think one thing that's interesting about this character is he is very different from his comic counterpart. So you could, even though these movies are successful and people like him, I think redo these movies, like reboot them pretty quickly and say like, yeah, we know you like that. We're not going to change too much about it, except we're going to do it more like the comics. It's going to feel different enough that you'll understand why we did this twice. And then, cast somebody else like Jaime Lannister or whatever, some like guy who kind of looks more like Aquaman does in the comics. And then, Momoa gets to be a Lobo like we always wanted. He'd also be a great Vandal Savage. I want to kind of completely take that off the table, but he also is probably Lobo and will be a good Lobo. You know what else is cool about this trailer? I think everything that Black Manta was doing with like big machines or his army of like hammerhead shark guys looks very cool. I'm not super thrilled about like another, he seems like his army is also made of like resurrected monster guys, which is, I don't know, just a little less interesting. But all of his weird ships and stuff, that can work. And also the music and stuff for this trailer, all the editing, just a really good tight trailer. I think this is still, for me, one of my most anticipated movies of the rest of the year, only because there's not a whole lot coming. Like, I don't quite think this is higher up for me than the Marvels. And honestly, like, I can't even think of too many others. Like Willy Wonka, I don't know what else is coming out at the end of this year. It's like a big blockbuster movie, not like a, just more serious movie or anything like that. So, I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm sure it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be something. It'll be something to talk about. We'll have fun with it. And I'm just glad we got a little bit of sense for it. Because you know what else this means? This means they're not delaying it. They wouldn't have put this trailer out if they planned to delay it. So that's great. And maybe that means, secretly, they have been making a lot of progress on this writers and actors strike stuff. Like, I know it doesn't seem like that in public, but maybe in private they are making progress and they expect the strike to be over. I imagine the fact that they're putting this movie out in December of this year and they moved Dune already does lead me to believe maybe the studios do think this strike will be over by then. And if that's the case, great. I'd love for it to be over by October, obviously, because I think it would be great to get people working again, get actors and writers paid fairly and paid like now. And also a little bit selfishly because I'm going to Comic-Con in New York and I'd like it to be one where there are, announcements and fun stuff like that. So if you're at Comic-Con in New York, follow me on Twitter or Discord or whatever, and we'll do like a meetup or something. But this is good. This is good news. I'm excited for the Aquaman. I like it. This is good.